This is a basic initial overview of OrcaSlicer and the general settings you're going to be changing when you're starting out with it. OrcaSlicer has three main areas. We have the printer settings, the filament settings, and then the process or the actual print profile settings. In here you have your retraction length and your Z-hop height. There's an advanced tab that shows you some more stuff. We're just going over the basic ones right now. So retraction length, you might need to change that if you're going from PLA to PETG, potentially TPU and otherwise. Your Z-hop height, you might enable this if you have an object where you have lots of small features you don't want the nozzle potentially colliding with. So you can enable a little bit of a Z-hop to try to avoid that. You have your motion ability settings, so the maximum speeds that can be specified within the speed settings, the acceleration settings, and then your jerk/SCV settings. Within the filament profile, you have the ability to change the minimum and maximum recommended values from your spool, whether you have pressure advanced enabled, which doesn't show up unless you have that advanced tab enabled. You have your nozzle's initial temperature for the print, and then the temperature that will be used for the rest of it, as well as the initial bed temperature and the temperature used for the rest of it. Under cooling, these ones here we won't go over right now, but you have your minimum layer time, so it'll slow down the print to ensure that it always has at least 4 seconds in this case of print time. If you have something that's let's say a building where it's got lots of larger structures towards the bottom and then it gets smaller towards the top, layer time might ensure that that top section doesn't turn all globby. You can turn off the fan for the first couple of layers. You usually have that on just for everything after the first layer. If you have something that's really sensitive to cooling, you can turn off the fan sometimes. For the most part though, when you're printing with PLA, you'll want that fan always on. You can also specify a feature here, don't slow down outer walls. A lot of print quality is determined by the general consistency of print speeds and cooling speeds, so you might turn this setting on if you have something where you just want a really consistent outer surface and you want that always to be the same speeds. And then we have your fan speed for the auxiliary fan, so if you have a second fan that's on the side of the printer or on the back of your printer, you would turn this setting on. That way you can either ramp it down to only be at 70%, or you can have it where you just want it to be blowing 100% fan all the time. Under here, you have your general print process settings. So these are the actual overall settings for the print itself. Under the quality tab, you have the layer height. So that is the height of each layer itself. The thickness of that basically defines your Z resolution. You have your seam position. You can change this depending on the type of object that you're printing, whether you want them to be aligned or just along the back or random. A couple other settings we're not going to go over right now. Here you have your number of wall loops, so basically the thickness of the left and right sides or the perimeter of the objects, the number of top and bottom layers. These will get overridden by the top shell thickness in this case. This only works out to 0.6 millimeters. This ensures that there's always at least 0.8 millimeters of thickness on the top of the print. And you can also change the type of lines that it's going to draw on the top and bottom. I often do something like concentric or Hilbert curve. I think it just looks really pretty on the bottom of things, especially when you're using multicolored filaments. You have your sparse infill density. That is the amount of fill within the perimeters going inside of the print between everything. And you can change the type of infill that's used. You can experiment with these to find which one works best for your applications. And then these are the layers that are between the top and bottom layers and the sparse infill. Under here, you have your support settings, so you can change whether you have supports enabled or disabled, the type of supports, whether they're normal and tree, and whether you want to paint and draw the supports yourselves or have them automatically generated. We're going to leave it auto for right now. The threshold angle is just everything past 30 degrees we want it to actually support. You can change this value if you have something that may not necessarily print badly but you just want to support those really steep angles. Under the Others tab, we have the ability to change whether you have a skirt enabled. It's a quick line outside of the print that gives you a bit of a prime for the nozzle, as well as a general check of the bed leveling. You can see if it's squished on one side more than the other. And then you have your brim type. Brims are commonly used if you have something that doesn't have a lot of contact area to the bed. You want to help anchor it more down. It'll put basically a cap on the bottom of the print that better adheres it to the bed. Or if you have something that's large and is peeling up due to warping, you can also use a brim to try to secure it better to the bed surface. Print sequence allows you to change whether you want two objects to print together at the same time, or if you wanted to print one of them and then move over and print the other one. You have to ensure that the print head is not going to collide, so it'll give you an area around the print saying that not to have them spaced within that distance of each other. You have spiral vase mode, which you can use with solid objects. It'll draw an outside, basically just the shell of it gives you a vase of any solid object you put into the slicer. And finally, fuzzy skin, which will add a bit of a texture to the outside perimeters, a little jagged edge, producing a bit of a fuzzy effect to prints. Those are all the basic settings of OrcaSlicer. We'll go more in depth with each of them over time in future videos.